We'll go around and do some introductions. Oh, we'll start with Lane.
I'm Pam Elliott, Admin Assistant for Planning and Development.
Good morning, I'm Ellen Unra and I represent the village around the lands around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning, Hubie Kellen, Division 2, Tilly area.
Good morning, I'm Tracy Fife, and I represent Division 5, which is west and south around Brooks.
Welcome, Kevin Stevenson, County Administrator.
I'm Molly Douglas from the northern part of the county.
And I'm Clarence Samuel, I represent Division 1 Rolling Hills and have the honor of chairing MPC.
Anna Marie Phillipson, Patricia area.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Christman from the west side of the county.
Good morning, Wayne Hamgren, Division 4, which is Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, Brian DeJong, Dutchess.
Good morning, Lionel Juss, north and east of Brooks.
And if we could have our guests perhaps stand up and say who you are and what issue, what item you're here for. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Great, and thank you very much for coming. We'll make sure that you have a chance to say something when your agenda items comes up. It's been a while since we had MPC, December 20th. The minutes have been circulated. How do you wish to handle them? Yes, go ahead, Tracy.
I'll approve as presented.
Tracy moves as presented. Any objections? All in favor? So that they are passed. Are there any post-agenda items? Seeing none, just a quick I guess it's just a misprint or cut and paste thing on item 7.2. That is the wrong land location, should be northeast of quarter of 241713, west of the 4th. Unless I have an old copy, but that's... It is changed now?
Oh, okay.
Okay, okay. All right. Then everybody else is on stream and I'm not. Otherwise, can we have the adoption of the agenda, please? Molly moves. All in favor? Okay, thank you. We have a number of permitted use reports. Are there any questions of staff? All pretty simple. There's one guy on there I'm not too sure we know, but...
Glad he's trying to be.
Yeah, it's good. Good to you finally caught on that you need permits.
Oh,
yeah. Anyway, no, all seriousness. Are there no questions? Then we'll accept it as information. Subdivisions, we'll go on to 7.1. Diane?
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, excuse my voice. I'm going to blame my 5-year-old and his 26 kindergarten classmates for this. So, again, we've got 3 this morning. The first one is 2018-0-193. So again, the purpose of this application is to create one new parcel of about 11.5 acres. It has an existing residence and improvements from a previously unsubdivided quarter section. It's the northwest of 182216, located in Division 9, about 5 miles south of GEM. A surveyor sketch has been included in your package, and it appears the dwelling and all the improvements are contained within the lot. Water is from the county's rural water line, and sewage is dealt with through an open discharge. So again, the proposed size of this parcel is again larger than what we normally do, but again, in order to accommodate the necessary 300-foot setback to property lines from point of discharge, the lot itself is larger. So access is from the road front to the west, and they both appear to have access to the new parcel and the residual parcel. Information from the AER indicates there are no abandoned wells, there are no wetlands, and there are no historic resources. So through the referrals, we have gotten some replies back. Again, County of Newell's Manager of Fire and Emergencies, Keith Martin, has no objections, and TELUS has no objections. So I'm recommending approval based on one condition, which is just payment of property taxes. I don't know if there's any questions.
Anne-Marie?
I'm just wondering about the 11 acres. We like to protect farmland. We like to stick to 7 acres. So here we're adding 4 acres because of an open discharge. So would it be a consideration to try to go back to the 7 acres and have a condition that they have a different sewage disposal system?
That again is always a prerogative of MPC if you wish to do that. I guess I took into consideration on this particular one the fact that it's not a cultivated parcel of land. It is a grazing piece, and where it is located in the county. And considered that, again, because the existing services were already there, that I could support the application. But again, that's my recommendation, and MPC can choose to do as they wish.
Anything further? No? Molly?
This is not even close to prime grazing land. It's mainly alkali flats type land. So I have no problem with the size of that subdivision, and I would move approval.
Okay, thank you, Molly. Molly moves approval. Kelly?
I'd just like to add that it also squares up the quarter section with the road allowance and the property lines. If we were to, just the way the property, the residence is situated, it would leave a small strip on the south side of the residence. So I like the way it cleans up the quarter. I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Anyone else? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that is passed. We'll move on to the next one, please, Diane.
Great, thank you. Again, this is application 2018-0-200. The purpose of the application is to subdivide an existing about 3-acre parcel to create one new vacant parcel of about 2 acres. It's Lot 1, Block 16, Plan 941-2002, within the northeast of 241713. It's in Division 2 within the hamlet of Tilly. So on the existing developed residence, it's going to be proposed to stay with a new lot named Lot 3, which includes a dwelling shed and portable building. The services for the dwelling are from the hamlet's municipal water and sewer system. There is a pole anchor easement located in the southwest corner of the proposed lot, and through this process has been renegotiated from the size that it currently is down to a 3x5, which is probably more appropriate considering what the infrastructure is. So that will open up perhaps in the future another lot that could be developed there. The north property line has a 9.43 meter offset. In consideration of realigning this property line, in consideration of future development of the 2 lots within the hamlet, may be a consideration for future development by the MPC. Again, it appears the property line has been adjusted to accommodate a portable building and existing fence line. I'll speak to that just briefly. I've been in contact with the applicants. They've actually indicated that they're favorable to the adjustment of that boundary, but they prefer the lot 3 to get larger, so that instead of bringing the one jut to the south, they'll take the one to the north, take in the approach, and then create a new approach to the lot to the north. So we can speak about that perhaps with the applicant if they choose to provide any more information on that. The remainder of their lot, which is proposed lot 2, is currently vacant. Services are to be proposed to be accessed through the Hamlet Municipal Services. A development agreement for the installation of these services should be prepared and registered on title, and access to the parcel from 2nd Street West. So again, if we choose to do that alignment, we want to just include and let staff know that we should be probably dealing with a road approach as part of that development agreement. So again, information from the AER indicates there's no abandoned wells, there are no wetlands, and there are no historic resources on site. I just want to go through the reserve on this one as well. So this has been an interesting file, and it's been a bit of a long process. But again, a historical review of the file cannot conclusively determine if municipal reserve had been collected on this parcel. So again, we're missing a lot of files from Tilly, and specifically the subdivision files. I think we received 3 when Tilly was created as a hamlet. So there is probably some research we're going to have to, there may be some files at the city that we have to try to dig up. So that was something that came out of this as well. But as such, looking at a review of the laser fiche that we have on file, a review of any of the documents we have according to this, we actually think that the subdivision to the east was actually deferred onto this parcel, but there is no deferred caveat registered. So at this point, we're considering it to be a 2-acre parcel that reserve is owing for this particular one. So that would clean up this parcel here. So again, we're proposing that the $5,000 per acre be applied to this, would be about approximately $1,560 in reserve. So complicated, but I think necessary in this situation. So through the referral process, we did get a response from Municipal Services, and they have no issues or concerns. They said access is acceptable to both parcels. And I do believe there has been conversations with Jeff by the MacGyvers with regards to a new approach, so that's been dealt with as well. Alberta Transportation, because this is within the referral area, they again sent their regular big long letter but don't have any concerns. TELUS has no objections to the above, and EID has no objections. So I'm recommending approval based on the payment of that municipal reserve, outstanding property taxes, a development agreement, and that the north boundary line be readjusted. And I'm going to suggest that condition 3 be corrected or amended to say that the property line be moved to the north by that 9.34 meters to increase the overall parcel size of lot 3 and to straighten out the line. So kind of reversing what condition 3 is here. So I don't know if there's any questions on this one. It's a little complicated, a little different than what we've had to deal with in the past.
Questions? Well, so you're talking about that Z on the north there.
Is it from a planning perspective? Again, this is one of the only 2 undeveloped chunks of land within the hamlet. We found some design work that would allow for a cul-de-sac at some point. So again, the applicants have been made aware of that there is some potential for redevelopment, and if they were to place a home there, maybe not right now they'd like to subdivide, but if they want to do it in the future, to do it in a way that would be able to create additional lots. So having that jog makes it a bit of a problematic when we're looking at things into the future. So again, I don't have I guess I looked at it my first review and said, well, it's a portable building, so that portable building could be moved south and the line straightened. Again, if it's more acceptable to the applicants that it get moved north, I think it really creates the same situation. It's just straightening things out, so we're not going to have to work around that 30-meter or 30-foot offset, sometime in the future.
So we have representatives from the applicant here. could you perhaps make some comments on that particular aspect? Is it a real hardship to, if we ask you to make that straight? Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Yubi?
So the approach will be on the west side of the lot by that drain ditch there that goes along the road? Yep, okay.
Are we ready for a motion? Yubi? Move with the straightening of the northeast boundary or whatever it is that there? Is that part of it, Yubi? Okay, any further questions? All in favor? Okay, that is then passed. 7-3?
Okay, seems like Tilly's a hotbed of subdivision this month. So our next one is 2018-0-201. And again, an application to create one new parcel of approximately 3.6 acres in size from a previously subdivided quarter section for public and quasi-public uses. That includes the EID and the railway highway. So this is quite a chopped up piece. It's in Division 2, adjacent to the hamlet of Tilly. There does not appear to be any developed access to the parcel to the south, in consideration of a development agreement for the installation of approach in the future should be considered. AER indicates there's no abandoned wells, there are no wetlands, and there are no historic resources. So the review and circulation of this application has the following comments. Again, Municipal Services has no issues or concerns with the application. At this time, we feel there's no need to construct an access to the subdivided or remnant parcel. Current operations do not require access, and they can work with a future developer once the permit has been submitted and the location for the locations and size. Again, Keith Martin has no concerns at this time. TELUS has no concerns. The Eastern Irrigation District has provided comments with regards to their process. Alberta Transportation as well has provided their comments, and they don't have any concerns with it as well. And a final comment came in from Fortis late, and they don't require any easements or anything at this point. So I'm recommending approval based on the reserve being paid, as this isn't first parcel out of the quarter section, at the $4,000 per acre, and that any outstanding property taxes be paid. We could add a condition for a development agreement, or that could be deferred to the development permit stage, as indicated by Municipal Services. So at this point, I left it off because I thought it could be dealt with later.
Well, there is access, but there is no,
There's
no
legal,
approved access.
Yeah, there's legal access, but there's no physical access.
Yeah.
So at this point, I guess they'll jump the ditch to go look at the parcel, but and they can get through the gentleman's yard too. So there's some interesting access things going on here. So.
Yeah. Okay. Questions? Ready to make the motion? Anne-Marie?
I'll make that motion.
Motion as presented. Any further comments? All in favor? That is also passed. Thank you, Diane. Development permits. Alice.
So I get to be Shanley today. I keep forgetting to put on the red lipstick when I'm her. You know? Probably shouldn't say that, should I? The first application is, I'm just going to scroll up here a bit. It is for a home occupation business where the landowner wishes to establish a music teaching operation within her dwelling. So the application number, sorry, is 2019-002. It's a home occupation in an acreage residential district. This district is the Patricia Highway and Highway 36. There's a series of acreage lots there. So it's for the purpose of teaching violin lessons, 5 to 10 students in her home, as well as private or group lessons off-site. No vehicles are required. There's no signage required. In the circulations, there were no issues or concerns from any staff, and there were no objections received from any adjacent landowners. So the recommendation for this is to approve the permit with the conditions listed in the report, and the applicant is actually here to speak if you have any questions for her.
Are there any questions, or would the applicant have anything to add? Seeing, yes, Brian.
I'd like to move acceptance of this development application.
Brian moves acceptance. Any questions? All in favor?
Thank you.
That is passed. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we move on to our tower.
Thank you. So this one, if you remember correctly, or not, we made an amendment to our land use bylaw after the last tower application because MPC wanted to take a look at the application or the proposal prior to the company having a public open house, and with the idea that then they could potentially waive the need for a public open house in different circumstances. So the idea was that MPC would be able to see the application before it was advertised and before people would be calling to ask questions. So what we're doing here, this is the first one since we've amended the land use bylaw. So we've been working with Tervita Tower, and one of the representatives here is to answer specific questions about the application. So the request that we had them bring in, or the information we had them bring in, was a completed application form that's in our bylaw, site plan, address the code utilization requirement because that was one of the things that MPC had decided was important to consider. And then if they wanted to waive the public information meeting, that they could request that at this meeting. So the area currently is zoned rural industrial. It's surrounded by agricultural land, but this parcel is in the Brooks Fringe area. It's across from the Trans-Canada Highway and from the Tillybrook Campground. The purpose of the tower is for that site. I'm just going to look at the map here for a minute. This is the CCS recycling site, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Correct. Okay. And so you can see where the tower is proposed to be sited on the parcel. And so the request here is for council, for MPC to review what's been provided and to indicate to the applicant whether you feel it's necessary for them to have a public information meeting or whether it's appropriate just to send out the letters. There's a notification package that they're required to send out under the federal legislation. So then county staff assists with that, but we've, as part of the process, we have that not to send out the letters until after this meeting, because if there's a need for a public information night, we wanted that included in the notification. So, roundabout way of saying, the applicant is here to speak to you if you have questions. The request is to waive the requirement for the public information meeting.
So, just one question, Alice. In the letter that goes to all the people that we have in that one, is a 1 mile radius, I think, wasn't it? Would it be made clear that at the subsequent meeting after that, if we had no public hearing, that they are welcome to come to that MPC meeting? Because it's not the final, we don't give the final approval until after that, right? It's sometime.
Correct. What you would give after that notification is called letter of concurrence. So we don't do a permit, we do a letter saying that the county is concurring with the location of this site. So we could request the applicant to make it clear if people had issues, they can come to that next meeting.
Okay. Brian?
My question's a little on a little different vein. I guess my curiosity is in terms of the compliance with aviation. This tower is on a flight path. I don't think it's tall enough that it would ever be an issue, but I'm just curious about the regulations when it comes to Industry Canada and their, I know it's I think it's 5 miles around an airport that they have to be notified. But yeah, again, I'm not concerned about the height because it's only 60 feet or whatever that, or 66 feet. But the fact of the matter is it is on the flight path for one of the runways, so for runway 30.
Morning, Sean with 3CIS again. We do put an application into Transport Canada to notify them that the structure is being built, and they reply with what they deem is needed for. This one, I would assume probably nothing because of its size. Like you said, it's pretty small. This tower is not much bigger than a large power pole. It's 33 inches at the base. It's kind of a gray color. The representation on the application there shows a white and orange tower. This one's actually about the same color as the Apple computer, so it blends in very well. It's very unobtrusive. But yes, an application does go in to Transport Canada, and they come back and either ask for it to be lit or whatever we need to do to accommodate.
Any other concerns or questions? Then what we're asking MPC to do is whether we should have a public meeting or not. Suggestions from MPC. Anne-Marie.
How many people are within that 1 mile radius?
I don't have that with me. Shanley would probably have been able to answer that. I am going to, so there's the parcels around it, like they're pretty full parcels, so there aren't going to be more than about 15, I would guess, around the site. Do you have any idea?
I don't have an exact number. By looking at it, very few, but I don't have an exact number.
Well, isn't that why we do the open houses, if there's a lot of people involved? So maybe it's an answer we need to have.
Anne?
I said, and this again is a county policy versus Industry Canada policy. For example, under towers under a certain size, they're not required to hold a public hearing. So again, this is us determining, is it in a location that we feel that we need them to have an open house and an information session to let people know. And again, it'll be up to MPC to determine, you know, do you feel it's in you know, is it of a size, or, you know, I'm looking at the fact it's being located on an industrial parcel that probably has some fairly tall structures on it to begin with. Is it really going to be that intrusive? In this case, I'd probably, you know, side with the idea of letting them know by letter and not having another full public consultation. So again, but that's up to you as to whether or not you feel that, you have some, you know, insider information on some of the landowners in this area that may have some concerns. Hopefully, Again, through the Industry Canada process, it takes care of the NAVCAN, it takes care of any of the, AEP requirements. So they've got another process. We're only one sort of cog in the wheel of what they have to do to get this approved. So again, it's whether or not, at this location, is this one that would require it? So.
If I know correctly, it's out by Tillybrook there. There's not a whole lot of residents out there within a mile. And it's not a tall tower. So I'm thinking if there is any objections, they send the letter out, they can come to council, because if we have public hearings or whatever, it's going to be here anyways. So just, my opinion is we don't allow them not to have a public hearing, but send out the letter and go from there.
That was my point, Wayne, is to make sure that on that letter that they understand they do have there's an avenue for further information. When we've dealt with a lot of these in the past, we often look at how close farmland is that is cultivated. I think it's at least a mile because it would be west of that canal there. The rest of it's all grazing, so yeah, it's a little different than most. It's also shorter than most. So, Tracy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of along the lines that I think public notification for sure is necessary. I don't think that a public information meeting is warranted in this situation, and I think we should go ahead and respond to our action to waive the public information meeting and send out the notification.
Motion, Tracy? Okay. Any further questions? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, we're on to information items. We have some bylaws from our neighboring municipality. Are there any comments from our staff?
Wow, this is pretty cool. It's a really interesting, I guess, way that the Wheatland is looking at dealing with their energy and having rezonings for all of these. So technically, I think it's going to be looking at maybe the first one. The second one is, if they pass the first one, this is all the stuff they got to delete out of their bylaw to make this work. So really, the focus of it is 2019-04. So, some of the things to pull out in my mind, and I'm not sure what or how they think they're going to implement it, but what first of all stuck out is that they don't allow any housing. So whether or not they're going to be, or any dwellings. So if you're an agricultural operator that has your house on a quarter section in which they want to put, say, a wind turbine on, or they want to do solar, they're not really, I guess you would become a non-conforming use. You wouldn't be able to add to it. So that was an interesting thing. So I'm not sure how they're going to deal with that. I know the MD of Pincher Creek, for example, allows housing, but it's discretionary. So based on certain criteria, they deal more with wind than they do with solar. Wind has actual sound regimes, and you have to ensure that dwellings and houses are so many decibels away from this, the source of the sound. And so there's certain places on quarter sections that are zoned for their wind turbines that are not suitable for housing. So that's a little different than, they're taking a little different twist on that one. The minimum parcel size of an acre seems a bit interesting as well. So I don't know if they're thinking about spot zoning towers, for example, because they're doing both solar and wind in the same district. So we'll see how that rolls out. The other thing I thought was pretty cool and kind of interesting that we talked about last time when Mistakis was here about the dark skies, that they actually have a section in the Wheatland County bylaw with regards to dark skies. So I'll have to go look that up. So I wasn't aware of that. So just to see what they're doing with that and what that actually entails. They also have proposed residential setbacks. So you may want to have a discussion with them how they came up with some of those. So again, 985 feet to a residential dwelling, or 2,500 feet from the boundary of a residential or hamlet zoned parcel. So those are some pretty big setbacks. So be interesting to see how they implement that as well. And then I guess hammer home the no dwellings, the section under that is no new residential development permits will be issued on parcels designated as energy districts. So don't know. But interesting anyways. I don't know if council's had a chance or MPC's had a chance to look at it, see what you think. I'm not sure it's something that we may want to leap in and follow at this particular point, but we may want to monitor to see how there's turning out what actually happens. So I guess I'll be reading the Wheatland minutes a lot more closely than I have in the past.
Wayne, you had a comment?
Yeah, I went through it and I found it very restrictive. If I'm an energy developer, my personal opinion, I'd stay away from Wheatland. It doesn't sound like they're welcoming. So, I don't know. That's what I got. And they put that land under conflict in there also. And that is, well, I don't know what you came away with there, but I don't think that works, so.
Diane, did you have?
I guess my one comment of that is, again, there's two different ways to look at it. You can look at saying you're much more welcoming with no rules, but then you sometimes end up making rules on the fly. Other people find that if it's very structured, they actually are more willing to go in there because they know what the rules are, and they know what they need to waive, they know what they have to work with. So there's two different, and I guess it depends on what kind of an energy developer you are, what your preference is. So again, I think there's two sides to that. I don't look at this as being, oh, you're so strict that you're going to push everyone away. You're going to find the people that this is going to work for, and they're going to be probably happier to know that they know what the rules are. So.
There was a big announcement about something that's going on in Strathmore. Brian and I were talking about, that's a solar craft, 320 acres, right. So when Brian and I were talking about it, I said, is that in Strathmore or is it in the county Wheatland? And we weren't sure. So I texted our young friend Jason, who you've all come to know, and he responded, it's in Strathmore. Wheatland's pretty skeptical about solar energy. So, yeah, well, I think it could be all of them. So I chuckled when I saw this. I said, we're sort of skeptical ourselves, but we are open for business also, Jason. So anyhow, it was funny when this followed it.
Kelly?
And this is kind of reactionary, I think, because they just, they have 30 new wind turbines coming on that leg that's already started, so there'll be 30 more heading west. And he was just shaking his head and saying he's getting off council.
Okay, one more comment and then we're moving on.
Just a question for Diane. Do you think we should develop an energy zone or?
And again, I think at this point, it's not something I'd recommend. It's never too late. If you talk to the MD of the MD of Pincher Creek, they again had a bunch of turbines in. Then they wanted a way to deal with it. Again, as you get more experience, you get some on the ground, you sort of figure out what's working, what's not working. You're always going to be changing the way that you deal with them. So the first one you hopefully learn something on, and you learn more as you get more and more and more. And so it will, depends on who's on council, what kind of vision they have for those types of things. So, I mean, personally, right now, I mean, there are different municipalities are requiring zonings. Willow Creek, Lethbridge County, Pincher Creek are of that mindset. Obviously now Wheatland, Vulcan, Tabor, Warner, no, definitely not 40 Mile or Cypress. So again, it's a different way of looking at how you do development. So I don't think it currently is something that I would be recommending. I don't think I'd be bringing forward an amendment for council's consideration anytime soon. Be waiting for direction on that one.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Any other questions? Question period. If not, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, ladies.
Joining the meeting.
We're going to get started because planning and development have a few items and we sort of have a lot of delegations, and so I'm hoping to get them their day done before those delegations interfere. And for a number of other reasons. All right, call the meeting to order. There is no one to excuse. The minutes from January 10th, the only thing I think has to be changed is that person that named for the Ag Service Board meeting yesterday. In the end, I had double committed, and all of you know about that. I sent around an email, and so we need a change in that person from Molly to Lionel, right? Okay. So we need a motion, Anne-Marie?
So the motion would be that Lionel goes through the ASB information day that you guys had as a function of council, even though he went yesterday.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just
it's
would
kind
be a
of-
change in the name, I think, as to who the rep would be.
Okay. Yeah, it seems kind of strange to make a motion for something that has already happened. But
Which is why I let everybody know ahead of time. It's just a motion to amend the minutes, right? Yeah. Okay, we'll take that from Anne Marie then. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Post agenda? In camera?
Yes, we'll need an in-camera discussion under Section 21 of the FOIP Act, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations.
Anything else? All right. Could get an adoption of the agenda. Tracy moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. There's no one here for question period, but soon the throngs will be arriving. All right, we're going to do item... Alice isn't back yet. Item 831, road closure and lease, I believe. Is that a bylaw? No. Oh, I know, it's 8.4, sorry then. Would it be bylaw text amendment? Okay, item 8.4.
Great, that one's mine. So again, we're proposing a bylaw amendment 1936-19, which is an amendment to clarify development for schools and religious assemblies within the county. So again, this was precipitated out of discussions with Grassland with regards to the Tilly School replacement, and then we discovered we didn't have schools listed as a permitted or discretionary use. So that triggered a fury of paperwork trying to figure out, okay, well, where else might we have some inconsistencies? And then we also went back to our previous review when we were doing some land use bylaw text amendments last year, where we looked at putting in criteria around schools and religious assemblies, and that got taken off the amendment at the time, and we thought it might be worthwhile for going back in and talking about schools, that maybe this might be an appropriate time to kind of fix all of it in a smaller, more focused kind of context. So again, currently, there are no distinction between traditional public separate schools constructed and maintained by the two school districts and those that are done by private operated groups. So again, the majority of our public and separate schools are located with the hamlets or adjacent to hamlets. We have the exception of the colony schools, which are still affiliated with the school divisions, but are operated at sort of isolated locations. So that kind of threw a bit of a kink into how to deal with this. So what we're proposing is that that we actually separate, and we have two new definitions, one for public schools and one for private schools, which would then be put into different zones and have some criteria around the development of them. So the definition of, I'm just going to go to my definitions in here. Again, a private school would mean a place of instruction which is not built or maintained with funds that are primarily public funds. It may include a private school, home education program, or early childhood services program in accordance with the School Act. And a school, public or separate, means a place of instruction operated with public funds through a recognized school district operated by a school board, either public or separate in accordance with the School Act. So that kind of keeps those in that situation. So we would end up putting all the schools into the public service district. So they would both be listed as uses. The suggestion is that the public schools in a public service district be listed as permitted. A private school would be a discretionary use, which would trigger a rezoning, which would be at the discretion of council through that public hearing process, and then a permit would be issued as a discretionary use. The only exception to that is we also have indicated that we would put public schools as a discretionary use in agriculture, which would allow for the improvement or relocation or new construction of schools in relation to Hutterite colonies. Or if the school district came forward and said they wanted to do a school in a certain location, that again would be something that could be accommodated, but these private schools would definitely need to be rezoned. So that's kind of the long and short of what's being proposed. With churches, the same sort of thing. We currently have two definitions. We have churches and religious assemblies. And looking at the two definitions, it was thought that it really made more sense to kind of remove church as a definition and just use religious assemblies, which would, again, be more inclusive perhaps of all of the different types of religious affiliations that are there that may not be what we'd consider a traditional church. So it made sense to do that. And to align with what we currently have, we would need to add religious assembly to a couple of different land use districts and then remove the use church. So, in a nutshell, there is a fairly long bylaw that indicates what the changes would be with regards to the different definitions and which definitions would be deleted, which land use districts that the different public and separate schools would be listed in. We've also included a list of criteria when it comes to evaluating an application for that. So again, with religious assemblies, we'd like them on a certain acre parcel size of 4 acres, that it be on a road which is paved or hard surfaced. So any of those, again, are criteria that we try to check off. If they didn't meet one of the criteria, again, that would be a discretionary consideration for Municipal Planning Commission to take into consideration at the time whether or not you want to waive some of those conditions or not, or require upgrades or those types of things. So it gives you a bit of, again, a few more rules when it comes in to actually having these things developed. Very similar for the schools that have been proposed, so lot sizes, lot coverages, again, paved roads, those types of things. And finally, is looking at rezoning some, if we were to propose to do this. The Tilly School definitely needs to be rezoned, whether we propose to go through this or not. It'll have to go to, from Parks and Recreation to Public Service. And then we're proposing that the Tilly Mennonite School, the Duchess Bethel Mennonite School, and the Newell Christian School, which are currently all zoned agriculture, would then be rezoned to Public Service to be compliant with the new changes in the bylaw.
Questions for Diane? Brian?
With this rezoning, does it change any of the criteria that go along with like speed zones and stuff like that? And the reason I ask is the Newell Christian School, which is in my division, has long been bone of contention for a lot of residents because it's reducing that speed zone on the secondary highway down to 30 kilometers per hour. And I realize there's some regulations that go along with school zone and administering the speeds in those areas. But I was just curious, is there a way that this would enact a change that could be addressed in some way, or would it strengthen it, if anything?
I think in that particular situation, when you're dealing with actually Alberta Transportation and their speed zones, it would be outside the purview of the bylaws. So I would suggest that this wouldn't trigger anything that would change that. There may be some discussion with Alberta Transportation through Municipal Services with regards to that speed zone on whether or not they're taking direct access off the highway, or, you know, I don't know the situation as well as I probably should in that particular location as to why they've put a 30-kilometer zone on the highway. But again, that may be something that could be revisited. My guess is that the school, which has been there for a good long time, if I'm correct, may have been, again, placed there when the county still had jurisdiction over the secondaries. And so, you know, I don't know if that's the case. So if it was pre-2002, then it would have been a county decision. So I'm not sure, you know, all the history, but maybe we can look into it just to see. But this wouldn't change any of that. It would just change how we deal with permits, really.
Other questions? So the recommended action is to proceed with this amendment as presented and provide first reading. Ellen?
Diana, I just have a question about the religious assembly. Now, it's discretionary use in different land use districts, but you did omit the Hamlet traditional agriculture one. Just wondering why. It used to be in the church discretionary use.
Sorry, church used to be there. Number 5 in the bylaw does indicate that it be amended to add religious assembly as a discretionary use in the ag and hamlet transitional. So it would add them so that everywhere church and religious assembly appeared prior to, it would just be religious assembly, but they are in those land use districts. So again, they're only discretionary, none are permitted. So again, it would just be something that, depending on site and location and what's being proposed, whether or not it's appropriate in that district. So it has been taken care of. Okay.
Move first reading, please.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Diane and Alice. Lane, do you want us to try and work in the... Shannon, I think you're here for an item that is at 10:45. So let's just get through the sale of this tax recovery property before we get to our 11 o'clock delegation. We're running a little bit behind schedule. So that is item 10.3. And
This particular item before council has to do with the sale of a tax recovery property in the hamlet of Patricia. We did go through the standard tax recovery process last fall. It was placed on the tax recovery auction. There were no bids that were submitted at that time, primarily due to the minimum reserve that was placed on the property. And it is mandatory to place a reasonable minimum reserve during a public auction through the tax recovery process. After the auction, the county took title to the property through the tax forfeiture process. We've inspected the property. It's in a rather dire stage. And as a result, upon reviewing the value of the property that had been originally applied to it through the assessment records, we've determined that the value was significantly higher originally than what should be expected to receive for the sale of that property. We have advertised it for sale by tender. There were 4 tenders that were submitted, and we are recommending that council accept the high tender for the sale of that property. If you've got some questions, we can certainly attempt to answer those at this time.
questions? Motion? Kelly moves. Kelly moves as recommended, the high bid. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Good work. Thanks, Shannon. All right, that puts us pretty much right back on schedule for 11 o'clock delegation. So thanks, gentlemen. Join us in these chairs further, or just ahead of you, and we'll do some introductions, and Lane will show you how the mics work. So this is item 9.1, the Brooks Bombers delegation, and we'll go around and do some introductions, and then we'll let you guys introduce yourselves and tell us what you're up to. Start over here with Lane, please.
Hi there, Lane Johnson, Director of Corporate Services.
Good morning, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Good morning, Ellen Unra, and I represented the countryside around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning, E.B. Kelton, Division 2, Tilly area.
Good morning, Tracy Fife, Division 5, so Lake and Resort, Castles, Antelope Creek, into this area here.
Welcome, Kevin Stevenson, County Administrator.
And I'm Molly Douglas, I'm the Reeve, so I get to chair these meetings.
Good morning, Clarence Amelung, Rolling Hills.
Good morning, Anne Marie Phillipson, Patricia area.
Hi, I'm Kelly Chrisman from the west side of the county.
Good morning, Wayne Hammergan. I'm from Division 4, which is Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Brandy Jong, Dutchess area.
Lionel Just, Div 10, which is north and east of Brooks.
And of course, we have Sandra, our bulletin reporter, and we'll let you guys introduce yourselves and carry on.
First of all, thanks for taking the time to hear us today. I am Graham Schetzel. I'm the new majority owner of the Brooks Bombers, I guess. I'll let Jason introduce himself when I turn it over to him. He is, what are you, president, I guess. So I'd just like to start by once again thanking you to allow us to speak. Like all of you, I guess, I'm a counselor at Special Areas 4, so we have a little bit of common ground there. I'm a rural guy by born and raised in Veteran, Alberta, at the very north end of the special areas. My business background is in the livestock business, owned and operated the auction market at Veteran for 16 years. When it was time to exit that business, the opportunity arose to become more involved in my true passion, which is baseball. So I did purchase the majority share of the team. It's in the works. Eventually, I will be the 100% shareholder. It's going to take some time to get there. I know there's been some missteps from previous ownership group, from the previous ownership group. I don't want to speak to that because that foundation was laid before I came along. Anyways, we do want to learn from some of those mistakes, and I can't say how viable this team is in Brooks. So far in 3 years, from what I know, it has not been financially sustainable. That's not to say it won't be moving forward, but I think we do need to make some improvements to the ballpark, and we are committed for the 2019 season here in Brooks. I think it's a real positive thing for your community. I've never been to a Brooks Bombers game yet, but I've gone to the park lots. I've been to many other games in the league. And I can say it's a real positive for each community that for every game I've been to in Okotoks, Medicine, at Lethbridge, it brings something, it raises the quality of life in those communities, and I believe it does the same here. I'm going to now turn it over to Jason. He can talk about, unless anybody has any questions for me before I turn it over to Jason. Going to let me off easy. That's good. I'm sure you're not. So I'll let Jason just speak to what our plans are. I think just from discussions between the two of us, it's a project and a proposal that's not only going to benefit the Bombers, but also the community, other user groups. So I think that's something to be taken into account if, and this is a big if the financial future of the Brooks Bombers is not going to work 2 or 3 years down the line, you've still got a facility that serves lots of user groups. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Jason now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason Thomasen. I am the president of the Brooks Bombers and also the president of the Brooks Regional Ballpark Association, which you may remember me from 2012. Obviously, I really appreciate being here, talking to Molly, and with all the stuff that's happened over the past 2 years now. It's definitely unfortunate, and it was an eye-opener for myself and Jason Wallner. Having Graham come on board is definitely a benefit to the team, and it's already proven it has benefits. Considering improving the ballpark, I apologize I don't have any paperwork for you because I don't actually have blueprints for the ballpark, and I was on holidays, so I never really got to put anything to paper. So I'm just going to go off my knowledge of the ballpark and what we feel would benefit more than just the Bombers, but other groups. Right now, our fan experience is not the greatest because we have, it wasn't really set up for now WCBL baseball. Average fans to get in that we're getting is 250. If we get 350, we're pretty well packed with all of our seating. If you've ever been to any other games across the province or in Saskatchewan, they all have patios down the side for other fans to sit and watch games. So our ideal was to put a patio down between the EID field and the Elks field. This would allow us to have viewing for the softball field when the Elks usually do their annual tournament, and when we also do our other juniors tournament, minor ball tournaments, so it gives fans, parents a better viewing point as we would move the fence in on an angle to make the viewing point better than just sitting straight on a line. It would be actually angled in, if you can picture that. I don't know if you've all been down there. We would also look at putting in batting cages, not look at, we are going to. We've talked to Brooks Minor Baseball. They have a fund that they want to contribute to that. We would also approach the city about it. We would think we could do this as a group, and some of those funds would be putting in batting cages that can be used by all the minor ball groups and the community in general. So this is not something that can be just used by the Bombers, it's used by every team that comes in. Softball, baseball, just a general community going down to the ballpark. It will be free to use. Other things we want to do is our ticket booth that's down there that we get brought in every year. We'd probably do a little bit of renovations on that. That doesn't cost us much money because we have a deal worked out with Lost Rentals that we get the building, he gets the sign, no real money changes hands. The bleachers themselves, the city is committed, as far as I know from one of our fans, they're going to put a hand railing in this year, so we have other future goals to add more seating. That takes time, but our first priority right now would be first two priorities would be the patio down the left field side, moving the fence in, and putting the batting cages in. And then, of course, tweaking other things where there's maintenance of the field, getting better equipment down there for all user groups. Any questions?
Any questions? Wayne?
What is a viewer patio? Sorry, don't know what that is.
We're going to model off other fields. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to any other fields in Alberta, like Medicine Hat, Lethbridge. So in those fields, they have down the left field line, which is the home base side, it's basically a raised patio where there's just ground level, just off the ground, where there's extra seating. So it's like a patio area where you can sit down with a picnic table, umbrellas, and you can watch the game. And then for us, from a Bombers financial side of things, it allows us to give us more fan experience and allow to sell better experience. So like you go to a Medicine Hat game, you would get a steak, a ticket, and a pint, and you get into the game and you sit down at the patio. For corporate functions, we can rent the area out for corporate functions. So then all of a sudden it's their game. Then it's more sponsorship opportunities for the team that we can call it the county annual patio or dugout or like twist on names like that. Then eventually if the money allows it, we were actually going to be able to raise patio above the dugouts. I have priced some of this stuff out through my work. Obviously I work at Lutz, so I have that opportunity to do that. Right now, a ground level patio from the dugout all the way out to the fence is about $10,000 in the material, not counting labor. Haven't looked at the raised one yet. But the patio it's a fan experience, but then also I look at the Elks tournament that goes in every year in September, which is about a $6,000 to $7,000 fundraiser for the Elks every year. We have our co-ed teams that run from the end of April to the end of July. There's usually 2 or 3 tournaments for them. Then we have minors tournaments that runs a juniors tournament. We have the Riley Martin Memorial Tournament that we run every Mother's Day weekend. That's another one that gets utilized. So it gives another fan experience versus just sitting in the localized bleachers. So it's more seating. It's the other avenue of it. Yes. Yeah.
I just add to it, what it really is more of a premium seating. So we're allowed to charge a little more at a Bombers game, for instance, or you can market it to groups. If a corporate group has, if they want to bring 10 or 20 or 25 people, you can put them in there, allows them to move around freely. You're not stuck on the tin bleacher for 3 hours. And it is a bit of a revenue driver with the premium seating, and you probably sell more food and beverage there.
Questions? Brian?
Well, you mentioned
Lionel.
the $10,000 budget. Is that, like, if you have a more firm number as far as the construction cost, whether it's the installation and, as far as going to the batting cages, so what is your total construction estimated budget as far as all in or broken out in segments?
Well, we haven't, other than pricing out materials, we haven't done the labor thing. And the reason why I haven't sourced out labor, because I really wasn't sure what was going on with all the previous stuff. And I really didn't want to step on everybody's toes and start going out in the community and say, oh, we're doing this, when I have no idea what we are allowed to do or if I can even talk about it. So this is the first that we've actually even considered it, really. I mean, it's always been a thought. But like, that's just the building material for the lower deck. The batting cages typically will run you, 4 batting cages all said and done will probably run you about the same amount, about 10. The rule of thumb in construction is what you pay for in materials, what you're going to pay for in labor. It's usually a good rule of thumb for working in the industry. All said and done, like, we're probably going to be in the north of the $40,000 to get it all said and done. And then any other things might be additions to, like the bleachers. If we've had people have come to me and said, what about getting backs for the bleachers on the main set of diamonds? So that would always be a thought as well. These things I need to get priced out. And like I said, I apologize for having that, but it's been a little leery on what I should and shouldn't do at this point with the previous ownership and the things that have happened. And I just didn't feel right going out in the community and saying, oh, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and when that was hanging over our heads.
So, Lionel.
Well, I think anything you could do to improve fan comfort is going to be a benefit. I've been to a few games, and sometimes it's extremely hot.
Yeah.
And other times there's other problems. So if you're going to build this patio and perhaps provide some shade, some umbrellas or something, that I think will be I think that'll be well welcomed. Yeah.
Other questions? So is it safe to say today you just wanted to sort of bring us an update?
Yeah.
Get a feel for, or let us know what some of your thoughts are going forward, what your ideas are, and
I did want to touch base on one thing too concerning the Bombers and the Ballpark Association. Graham and I spoke last night with Jason, and that with all the history with the previous owner and the Bombers, we were wondering if maybe if we just kept it separate. And we went to the Ballpark Association that we've dealt with in the past, that you've dealt with in the past, that's a registered charity that can issue tax receipts, that if we talked about keeping it under that group's name. So if the Bombers in 3 years are not around, the Ballpark Association will still be around, because we'll still continue to fundraise, because the Ballpark Association will be tied with the Bombers when we do our supper. So that's a registered charity, and it's still running. We dealt with from day one. We've done it for the $775,000 that we raised to actually help build the ballpark. We felt as a group that that might be better if we tied it separate from the Bombers, but with the understanding that we can still do that. That's going to help all the user groups.
Graham?
Just to add to that a little bit, don't get me wrong, it's not my intention to move the team out of Brooks, but it has to be financially viable. We can't continue to bleed red money, or, you know, to be awash in red ink. So part of our theory behind this is, like Jason mentioned, if the team is not, you know, if it's clear in year 2 or year 3 that I can't survive here, then I don't want to leave here and be tied to money that the county gave me. So I think it's really prudent to give the money to the nonprofit organization that's going to be here. That if the Bombers do leave, maybe they'll be a part in, you know, down the road attracting a different team if circumstances change or whatever. The money stays here locally if, and hopefully that doesn't happen, but if we have to relocate or if the team is not successful, at least your county money is still here.
And it's community, it stays for the community. It's good for the community, is what your point is, yeah. Tracy?
I'm just wondering with the Ball Association, are they applicable to apply for Division 5 and 10 rec funding? Or because it's a Ball Association, does that disqualify them, Lane?
No, they would be a rec organization and would certainly be eligible to apply. I would strongly encourage them to take a look at that because the deadline is tomorrow afternoon.
Like, I know when we originally when we started the Ballpark Association, we applied for a CFEP grant and we got awarded that. And I can't remember her name, but she came down and was embarrassed. She's like, I'm giving you $30,000 less than what you've gotten from your 4 major sponsors. So we applied, and that was when Mara Nesbitt was the one that helped me write that grant, actually. And we have applied in the past. Originally, when we had the Ballpark Association, we were going to dissolve it after everything was said and done because it's a lot of work. But in the end, we thought, no, we can't. It's a registered charity. We can't really let it die. It's a valuable thing to have. Every year we've just kind of done our books and kept it viable, and realizing that we have more opportunity with it for the ballpark, not only the Brooks Regional Ballpark, but the other ballparks. So we thought it would be important just to hang on to it for, well, situations like this and moving forward down the road for grant money. But I thought when we applied for that one, we had to have a certain amount of money in our account in order to apply for the grant, but I could be wrong on that.
This is, I think the CFEP is provincial.
Okay, yeah.
This is county recreation funding. And so Div 5 and 10 are what Lionel and Tracy represent. And they have so much money that people can apply for organizations, like the Ballpark Association, I guess, would be appropriate for them to apply for. And that's what's due tomorrow. I'm sure that Lane could tell you more about that before you take off today, or Tracy or somebody anyhow.
Yeah, the application isn't really complicated, so it wouldn't probably take you a lot to put something together. You just need a little bit of...
Is it not?
It's not.
That is the one that other community organizations will be applying for too, right, Tracy and Lionel? Yeah, so it's Div 5 and 10, the areas around the city. The money before, just for Graham's knowledge, that we donated to whoever, came from another fund altogether different. That was a reserve fund, wasn't it? Yeah. So, okay, other questions or comments? Wayne?
We have that recreational fund. if I'm not there's up to $2.5 million in there right now. That's for the whole region, right? We put that half a mil. If we decide to go with this, couldn't that money come out of there?
Wayne, have you forgotten that we haven't figured out how we're going to do that yet?
Well, then we could make a motion and do something.
Keeping in mind the pot of money that the original 50,000 came from, it's not called municipal reserve, public reserve, and that's for parks and different things that have been used by communities over the years as well. So there are a variety of avenues, Wayne. Graham.
Just to add on to that a little bit, I guess 50,000 is from what I hear, that's what was awarded the first time, and that would be a start. But I think long term, to have, to give this franchise a long term solid base, it's going to take more than that to turn that into a Wimble, to catch up to the rest of the facilities in the league. So I think that if we could start there this year, that's great, but we are going to have to, work with you guys to access some of these grants and these other funding streams in order to get up, caught up with the rest of the league. So it's not going to be in my opinion, it's not a deal where we can get 40 or 45,000 and we're done. It's probably phase one. Would you agree, Jason?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of work to be done there, and I guess for me personally, and with all that happened, I know you guys must have a sour taste in your mouth. I know it soured mine because it was an eye-opener for me, and it just, we could have done a lot with that, and I think false promises were given, and I just want to kind of give you if I'm in charge of it, like we were with the Ballpark Association, I'm 100% going to guarantee it's going to get dealt with right. It's not going to be off to the side. You're going to see the results of it. And I can truthfully speak to that myself personally, that there's nothing going to be hidden. It's going to be visible at the ballpark with whatever we do. And I hope that's evident from the way the ballpark got built from day one. With the money that we raised previously, I know that has really nothing to do with this, but I mean, it's pretty evident in what we've done. Like, we made sure the people that sponsor money were recognized there by signage all over the ballpark. We put the proper sound equipment in. We add the capping to the fences. We've done everything to try to dress the field up. And you know what? The fact of the matter is the field is actually worn down in 4 years already. And that's another story with the city. So we'll get into that one. But I mean, it wears down. No one really thought the ballpark would get used like it did, and that was the selling feature. I believe it was Molly's words. She thought I was crazy from day one. She thought I was crazy for doing it, and lo and behold, I think on grand opening day, you said that to me. You said, "This is unreal. Like, this is good." And
your accomplishments were amazing, and I thought you were crazy.
And
that it would never happen.
It's being used. Our minor ball is increasing. We do a winter ball program every year. We rent an oil field shop. And we've bought turf through our minor ball association. So we see the fruits of it. We have kids now starting to apply to get scholarships to go to college. We're starting to see it, and the Bombers was definitely boost that. It's just unfortunate that we had an individual that kind of set it back on us, but it hasn't stopped baseball growing. And ultimately, my goal, Bombers' goal, minor ball's goal, is to build the sport. And anything we do to the park to improve it will eventually continue happening. We have teams come out of town for slow pitch tournaments, for baseball tournaments. Right now, we got people contacting us, this has nothing to do with Bombers, about hosting the Ride for Life down there, like the bike ride, I think, in September. And they're saying, can we use it? And of course you can use it. It's a community facility. It's not just baseball. So I just want to reiterate the fact, whatever is done, you're going to see results. And I can 100% promise that.
All right. So I think we've got some ideas from you about where you're headed with the improvements for the park. I'd recommend that you talk to Lane at the end so that you can perhaps get a quick little application in for a start. I don't know how much money 5 and 10 have, and there's all sorts of community organizations apply. But I hope I'm not going out on a limb for saying when you get some more details, something in writing for some of this stuff, so these gentlemen return and bring this to us, I think is what we would like to see. And I like the way you chunk it out, you know, approximately this for this amount, the patio and the batting cages, and so people can see what you're up to. And they are community improvements. I think we recognize it's not just bombers. So does that sound okay?
That sounds fair.
Sounds great. Thanks, thanks again for having us.
You betcha. Anything else for these guys before? Hubie.
You guys get players from the Vauxhall Baseball Academy too, right?
If they're not taken from us or stolen from us.
All right.
We have had a couple, but
I think they're in their 13th year now, so
yeah,
it's pretty good.
well, one of our, well, we spoke about this last night, and one of mine and Jason Wellner's goals is eventually we'd like to see Academy run out of Brooks. So that's
You're
another big
crazy.
goal. I know.
He likes a challenge. Thanks, you guys, for coming here today. And Jason Waldner, thank you for all of your dedication and diligence. And you never quit trying, for sure. And I think our group here recognizes that. And Graham, happy to have you in our community and looking forward to making a success out of the Bombers, because I think we all know that our communities need everything we have to put us in a strong position to attract other things. And so the Bombers are an asset, and we just got to keep thinking that way.
Thank you very much for meeting with us.
You betcha. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You bet. And Lane can help you out. All right, we're going to be heading into public hearings for 11:30. And see if there's something we can sneak in. I think we could look at Alice's planning and development report. Is there anything in there that you had questions about? Or? Yes, sorry, item 10.1. Alice, we're at 10.1 if anyone is having questions for you. Seeing all the solar stuff, I attended the financial summit for solar development in Calgary I went in Monday afternoon, presented Tuesday afternoon, and my head hurt. There was so much stuff that I didn't ever want to know or hear about, but anyhow, the panel that I was part of went well. That was the only thing sort of different. I'll send you a link to the agendas and all of the stuff. It was the only thing that involved local government. And you know, Paul, is it Paul McCutcheon? Paul something like that. He's on our provincial board, our RMA. He's out of the central region. Forget his name. He was on that. He was on that panel too, and he is very into solar and a very excitable, keen type of guy that I'm sure that he wanted just to do the whole panel himself. It was hard for him to sit back and listen to any of us that weren't just 100% into municipal involvement, like becoming developers of solar ourselves. which this whole conference was about, the banking part, the investment part of solar. And I don't know where all this money comes from. It's curious to me, but anyhow, I'll send you some more information about it. Any questions about Alice's report? If not, could we get a motion to accept it? Tracy, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Alice, did you have anything that you wanted to focus on in there? All right, we're going to go back to our public hearings. So we need a motion to move into public hearings. Anne Marie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried and takes us to Bylaw 1919-18, road closure and sale. There's two of these that are both involved the same part of the country, right?
I just need to double check which one I'm doing here. So this is 1919. Because you're right, they are both basically the same thing. All right, so the map that I have up here applies to both. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to do that. All right, there. So this one has to do with closing and selling the road allowances on the Taquita parcel. So get my right glasses on. So we are talking, oh, it's up here, road plan. The road plan is up on this one. Yikes. Okay, just give me a minute here to get organized. Okay, I got it. Sorry about that. So this is to close and sell the lands shown in blue. So Northwest 36 between 35 and Southwest 36 and between Northeast 26 and Northwest 25. So these are the parcels that are going through the Taquita lands, through their pens, and that at a previous meeting, which one was it? It was quite earlier. The July 5th council meeting, there's approval to proceed with the road closure and lease. So the public hearing for this has gone through the 2 weeks in the newspaper and advertising. Once we've gone through the public hearing, it will be sent to Alberta Transportation for review. In the circulations, there were no responses from adjacent landowners, no responses from any of the advertisements. In your report, it says ATCO and AltaLink have no objections. Fortis has submitted an easement, and TELUS responded just a couple days ago that they have no objections. So the easement will be registered then with the road closure. The applicant has agreed to consolidate the road allowance with his adjacent lands. So the recommendation for this is that council provide first reading to this road closure, bylaw 1919-18. And I can answer any questions.
Alice, just to clarify, just now you had said road closure and lease, and we have it as road closure and sale, so I'm...
My apologies, it's road closure and sale.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, thanks.
No questions, so similarly, the next one.
The next one is the lands just to the north. And with this one, the discussion that we had to do with a historical agreement that had been made between the Taquitas and the county, that this would be transferred as a swap with the adjacent lands. So you can see in the diagram here, the road plan is what was built in the red. The green is what was supposed to be swapped. So this will be done as a road closure and sale again. It will be transferred as opposed to them paying market value for it. So that's really the only difference between the two bylaws. So in the circulations, again, there were no comments or concerns from any adjacent landowners. We have heard back from all the required referrals. ATCO, Altalink, Fortis, and TELUS have all now responded, and none have any objections. So again, the suggestion for this is not approval to proceed. First reading, and then it would be sent to Alberta Transportation for review.
Questions? Motion to move out of public hearings. Kelly moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. So we need a first reading for bylaw 1919-18, the road closure and sale of the first batch. Hubie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for bylaw 1931-18, what? Is that right?
Yes, so this is one that we've received back from Alberta Transportation now. It got first reading approval for closure and lease, as you can see on the map here. And so the request now is for second and third reading, and then we'll set up the lease agreement.
Yeah. Okay, do we have to do the other bylaw? Like there were two bylaws. Do we have to do 1920-18 road closure as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you had.
Let's do that one first. So that needs a first reading also. So we can get a motion for that. Ellen moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. Then we can go to item 8.3, the road closure and lease.
Yes, so this one is Thacker. So this is for a second and third reading.
Let's come back.
Motion for second reading.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for third reading, Lionel moves.
Motion for third, please.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I think that is okay. Alice?
So I have item 10.2, the area structure plans review.
Oh, okay.
So I will try to keep this short, just highlight what I have in my very long discussion paper here. Under the requirements of the Municipal Government Act, the municipality must post on our website all the list of policies, documents, whatever, that we use in making decisions under Part 17, which has to do with planning and development. So stepping back from that, Diane and I have been looking at what do we need to pull together in order to do this. So I started pulling together all the bylaws, and in pulling together the bylaws, part of that is looking then at area structure plans. So as we were looking at area structure plans, we have throughout the years been looking at some of them with the idea that, okay, is this area structure plan still applicable? Has it been completed? Or does it need to be revised? Is it really not relevant anymore? So that's what I made the spreadsheet for, is to show or to kind of summarize which ones that Diane and I felt were no longer relevant, those that needed to be replaced potentially, and those that should be kept. So there are quite a number that we're recommending to rescind. There's kind of 3 categories of those that I'm recommending to be rescinded. Some of those are, I'm calling completed, and that is that the subdivision that resulted from the area structure plan is basically built out, and that the requirements from the plan really aren't such that we need to keep it in order to continue any development of that subdivision. The second category is ASPs that were approved, but they weren't developed. So the subdivision that would have resulted from the area structure plan was never developed. So an example of this is the Mar area structure plan, Crawling Valley, Prairie Sage Golf Course. So realistically, they're out of date. And if we were going to do any development on those parcels, we would need a new area structure plan. So our opinion is that these get rescinded, and then if something else comes forward that developer wants to develop on those lands, then we can look at it with fresh eyes and move forward from there. So the third category had to do with area structure plans that we're recommending be replaced as opposed to be rescinded. And some of those have to do with Lake Noah Resort, for example. The development has changed a fair bit since that was first approved as an area structure plan. For example, for those of you who were here when Block 8 was looking at being developed, the design of that was quite different than what was proposed in the area structure plan. And we have seen designs from Mr. Shergill, who wants to potentially develop the north and east sides quite differently than what's shown in the area structure plan. So our suggestion for that is to say, you know, the next time he comes up with a plan is that we want a new area structure plan to replace what's already there. So that's specific to Lake Noah Resort. The other one is Castles Road, and then the Johnson Weiss Curry. Johnson Weiss Curry is north of the the Brooks 2 solar development. It's that area. And for the most part, it's been developed. Part of the Johnson area structure plan has never been developed. I think that's part or phase 4 and 5 of that. Curry is pretty much developed out. Weiss is what Curry was kind of combined with. So it's a very confusing set of area structure plans when you look at them. And so the recommendation for that is to either outright rescind it or have it replaced. The third one is Castles Road, so that's Westland Acres. The issue with that one has been there was an urban overlay that was supposed to be used in development, and it wasn't. So really, it's not applicable anymore. And this one, we were thinking in light of the IMDP discussions, if the city is concerned with entranceways to the city, that perhaps that could be a combined combined effort between the city and the county to look at how does that want to be developed. So those are three that are kind of, we're not recommending rescinding necessarily, but they need to be looked at more closely and possibly revised. So then there's a group of area structure plans to keep: Timco, Deer Run Estates, and Jackson Light Industrial. Timco and Jackson Light Industrial are both on the truck route. For now, they're fine, they're working. We may want to change them once the truck route has been more defined. Deer Run Estates is in the process of being developed, so excuse me. So we feel that one needs to stay in place to help with development of that site. So the long and the short of this is, under recommended action, I have a whole list of points here. If it is council's or MPC's decision to move forward, then we have a recommendation of which ones to rescind, which ones to keep for now, and which ones need further consideration. As part of this, there is some zoning that will need to be changed, so that would need to be part of the bylaw as well. And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to stop now.
Questions? Wayne?
On that MAR zone, there's already a kind of industrial complex there. How would that affect that? Because I'm not sure what they produce there, but.
Oh. I'm just going to bring up the map. Because I think this is still vacant, but I just want to make sure.
If you're thinking a different, just across the road, is that a different area?
Yeah, the Mars subdivision, I think, is on the south side of the road, and the purchasers of the new industrials on the north side.
Okay, good. Question answered.
I'm going to quickly tell you that's the piece that Alice is looking at. It's a 80-acre split that was put together, so there's been no development on that particular one subject to the MAR ASP.
What's the process with rezoning? Do you have to go back to the owner? Do you do it on your own? How is that going to work, and cost involved?
And there's a couple of different ways. We do have policies within the land use bylaw that indicates if a rezoning has happened and 2 years has passed, it can be at council's prerogative to rescind zoning. So that, again, we'd want to look, once we got through this process, if council's not interested in doing this, then we're not going to pursue it any further. Normally, again, you would notify them that you were rescinding the area structure plan and you're rescinding the zoning as well. They would have the opportunity to come to a public hearing to say they were in favor or not in favor at that point. So again, there could be some interesting dialogue that comes out of that. But again, with this process, it would more than likely, because we can do it all as one, and one bylaw, that I would suggest that would be a county cost that we would be doing. So it wouldn't be, we wouldn't have cost to the applicants or anything.
And not to do it just delays the inevitable, basically.
Well, there's a couple of things, because I know Alice is concerned about, I think it's section 638.1 of the MGA. I'm probably more concerned about SSRP compliance as well, which is due September 1st of this year. So we do have to review all of our documents and make sure we're in compliance. If they're no longer bylaws of the municipality, then we don't have to review them and do anything to them. So that's been kind of on the, this has been a discussion Alice and I have been having, along with Lane, probably the last couple of years, about what needs to happen and not. So now, with this new requirement to publish the policies, it's kind of come to the head to say, okay, what do we really need and don't we need? I would suggest we wouldn't want to, if we decided we needed to keep the MAR one for now because we're not comfortable in removing their zoning, I would suggest those things have to go hand in hand, because you don't want to, 160 acres of land zoned with no plan. So you kind of want it to go together if you're determined that's maybe the best way to do it. With the ones that are already completed, I mean, a good example is Martin Industrial. There's no real reason to have that around. There isn't any limits to setbacks. There isn't anything that, is something that we have to look at that document on a regular basis. It's just there. So there's definitely those three different categories that make sense. I think what Alice and I have talked about with regards to, say, Lake Newell Resort area structure plan, it's like, yeah, there's things that need to be looked at, and to put those into the planning work schedule over the next several years. What's most important? What can we maybe partner with people to do? So those are the ones that we kind of said, well, let's just keep them in place, and then we'll do the work on those if we have to do anything to meet the MGA and the SSRP compliance requirements. But I think the list that she's put together with regards to, removing the ones, for example, I know that the Bantry Bay one that the EID has recently purchased, they'd be more than happy to have the zoning go away with that as well. And again, it would just be one clause to say, you rescind these area structure plans and you rezone these lands, all done in one bylaw. So I know we did a series of these when I first started, way back when, and we got rid of about 8, I think. And there was very little fluffle with that, I think. Only happened about 5 or 6 years afterwards when people realized that they weren't there anymore. But
Back when area structure plans were like a big problem around the table. Kelly?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation as presented by council. I believe it's number 1.
So that is to direct staff to prepare a bylaw to rescind the list of ones that you feel should be. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Alice?
Can I just ask one more question? At the bottom, I have option to replace or rescind. Do you have any preference for that one? So this is the Johnson Curry area structure plan.
So you said if it's rescinded, the current zoning stays.
what happens with that one is that because, as Alice mentioned, there's many more phases that have been contemplated in that area structure plan. It takes up almost the entire quarter section, so it's what we've got is maybe phase 1 and phase 2. So again, they hadn't really followed along with that to begin with. So I would suggest if they were ever going to come back and look at phase 3, 4, 5, 6 through 9 or whatever, there was 12 maybe, there was a lot of phases with that one. We'd probably be looking at them to update that anyways. So again, what we're saying with that particular one, if there is subdivision that has occurred and there's dwellings, we wouldn't change any zoning with that. It would be like for Mar, for example, where there isn't anything. There may be consideration, we'll have to look back, and I'm not positive if the entire quarter is zoned acreage residential, or if we would, keep the pieces that are currently subdivided as acreage residential, and the other one may go back to fringe. So those are some of the things we'll have to look in a little bit more closely for that particular one. So we could definitely bring that back as part of the bylaw, and council can review, and if you're happy with it, approve it as part of the bylaw. If you're not happy, just remove it, and things would remain as is.
So then what I'm hearing, you suggest that we leave all of them in the list to rescind, because that's the only one that's sort of separate, Johnson Estates Curry, right, Alice? So
Johnson Estates Curry is what I have up right now.
So then I think then we just leave it there, and as Diane says, we can deal with it, or you can make a recommendation at the time. Okay? Perfect. I thought that. Good one. All right. Thank you, ladies. Hi, Cole. So we're going to go to, all right. Coal is item 11.2. Page 3 of my agenda. Is it warming up out there?
No, it's not.
So does this cold weather cause more trouble?
It can.
Yeah.
It definitely can. We are currently dealing with a water break in the town of Zano right now. It has nothing to do with your infrastructure, but we are busy doing that right now. So, anyways, good morning. Just about afternoon, councillors and Reeve Douglas. Short report. I believe you all have it in front of you or had access to it. We'll start off with the infamous intersection in Rolling Hills. There's a small leak there. Yes, it's hard to believe, but there is a small leak. So we, the operator that found it, had a chance to take a look at it, and Jeff Tiffin went out and took a look at it, and Jeff decided to leave it be for now. I believe the idea is that it's not too bad, it's not getting any worse, and he'd like to do more work in that intersection as a whole, so it'd be fiscally prudent to kind of put off that until it warms up a bit. So that's the plan for now, and as an update as of this morning, it appears that it's not gotten any worse, so it can continue that, although there has been a little bit of feedback from the residents of Rolling Hills claiming that it's a waste of water, but we all know that it's not a ton of money at a small leak at 85 cents a cube. So I believe it's best just to leave it now if it's status quo and doesn't get any worse until they can do some more work on that intersection. Next we have, we're currently finishing up the year-end reports for the 16 systems that we look after on behalf of the county. So that includes 12 waterworks systems and 4 wastewater systems. They're due by Alberta Environment by the end of February, so we're currently compiling all the stats and information for those. Everything looks really good, so we will have them sent off before the end of the month. We also had the field service technician from Hawk Corporation. They're the main company that all the analytical equipment that measures real-time data for chlorine residual, turbidity, stuff like that. Alberta Environment stipulates that we have to have those verified and certified by the manufacturer's technicians once a year. They give a certificate saying that everything's good. And that's just to make sure that the information that we're getting is correct. And it takes him about a week because there's so many Hawk instruments throughout the county and at NRSC as well. So he has completed that last week, and we'll be receiving our certificates here shortly. So that was completed. In rural water, we had, in the report you see that we had 2 hookups to the rural water system and 7 reported failed float valves. Update as of today that make that 8. One was a broken ball and rod, had nothing to do with the actual valve itself, and the others 7 were the valve. So again, that's kind of in line with the numbers we've seen for the last year or so. We're averaging in around between 5 and 10 every month that we're dealing with. So on our wastewater collection side, we're having intermittent problems with the flow meter at the wastewater lift station in Tilly. So we're currently in contact with the manufacturer of the piece of equipment and Tarpon Controls, who installed it as part of the Tilly lift station upgrade a couple of years back. So we're trying to get that diagnosed and our next course of action on it. There again, that just gives us the total cubic meters that flow out of that lift station. The lift station itself is operating normally. It's just we need to kind of know the totals per every year, and that's a piece of equipment that we rely on. So we're working on getting that rectified. And that is the extent of my report. If anyone has any questions?
Questions? I can tell they're hungry. Oh, tree.
What street are you on in Bassano?
It is actually in an empty field behind the RCMP. So it's not actually on a street. It's just part of the looping project that they had done a couple of years ago to kind of get rid of some of the dead ends that they had in their distribution system.
And I think to feed desert sales, maybe.
Yeah,
I remember
it
that.
sounds like when they isolated, they didn't have to shut down service to any residents or businesses or anything like that. But that's ongoing as we speak. So they're daylighting right now with a hydrovac. So once they find out the exact location, they should be able to repair it without any huge issues, other than the fact that they're dealing with the cold too. So.
Yeah. Typical cold weather. Tracy.
I'm cold. Last time you were here, yeah, I can't see you. We were talking about whether it was the old float valves and you were going to see if you could find out how that's working and if it's still typically the old float valves that are causing trouble. Do you know any more about that?
It seems to be that it's neither. It's about the same amount of each, and we're kind of not getting that information right away because we drop off a valve and then they have to wait for their levels to go down. So people that have huge cisterns and then they have them in a place where they can't easily access them, we're not getting feedback from them after the fact. So the ones that we have found, they're a mixture of both the new and the old. So.
Anything else? Brian.
Well, got a smart ass coming out in me in Rolling Hills. Just wondering if it's if the situation is of the leak is creating some ice there. Maybe we could spin it as a recreation facility for kids to be able to skate in the wintertime.
It's currently in a ditch in the culvert. So,
okay.
Yeah,
So it's not, I guess that was what I was getting at, is that
No,
it's not a traffic hazard for
No, not at this
people
time.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Cole. Join us for lunch if you have the time. And
I would love to. I'm a little busy this afternoon, so
Okay.
I have to decline. Thank you very much, though.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. I know there's some people who have important engagements for later, so I was wondering if we should break for lunch and start again at about 22? 22? That work? I had John just hooting last night. I said, read this Bow City Community Hall.
Oh, yeah.
I said, isn't this great? Like, it's the way things used to happen. Request to rent EID irrigation water rights from the county, 10-5.
So northwest of Rainier, we have a small parcel of land that the county acquired a number of years ago for a gravel pit. There is some water rights that are on that. We have not been using those water rights for many years. The site is being leased out for grazing purposes, and the current tenant hasn't been using the water rights there either. Have been approached by an individual who's inquiring about the possibility of renting the water rights from the county. We've talked to the EID. There is a process that the EID has in place for that. If council is agreeable, we can go ahead and initiate that. The one thing that raises some question is that it would be a negotiated agreement with one party that has not been subject to an open competitive process. I've indicated, though, that the policy that we have in place for the management of county-owned lands does have a clause in there that if we receive an unsolicited offer for the purchase of land, that we can negotiate a market value sale of property. And I would suggest to you that in this case, it would be quite similar. We've had an unsolicited offer that has come in for the rental of the water rights. And if we use the precedent set with the land policy that I've referred to, we would be in a position to go ahead and attempt to negotiate a market rate for the rental of those water rights, provided council is prepared to let us proceed with that direction.
Lane, do you have any idea about the length of the arrangement that you would work on?
The individual who has approached us has indicated it'd be 5 to 10 years is what he would be looking for.
Brian and Lionel?
I'm curious about the ability for that property to be irrigated into the future. And the reason I ask that is would there be a consideration for that, for those water rights, if it's not going to be utilized on that parcel, that we would consider selling them on an open bid process?
Very valid question. I guess a lot of it's going to depend on what the potential long-term future is for the property. The main reason that we're hanging on to it at this point is that there may still be some additional gravel reserves that we're wanting to try and extract from it. Initially, it was deemed to be, the reserves were deemed to have been depleted fully, but Mark and Jeff are wanting to go back in and do a little additional testing. We would end up having to go through a full remediation before we would be in a position to do anything permanent with the property in the way of selling it. And I would expect that a decision with regards to the future need for water rights on that parcel would have to be made at that time. So right now, it's hard to say if it would be an appropriate thing to do to consider selling the water rights. I think what we would want to do is hang on to them for the time being, but that's certainly a possibility for the long term.
So a question I have was, how do we establish a value of these water rights? There have been some sold, and I know firsthand some were sold close to me, and they were quite high. And so if you're going to, and I'm not sure if that's a real value or not, but they sold for $3,500 an acre. And so if we're going to lease water rights out, then generally 4% return on investment is what the lands have been selling at lately. And so that'd be $140 an acre per year for these water rights. And I wonder if that's in the realm of what he would be expecting to pay.
When I spoke with the Eastern Irrigation District, I raised a question as to what kind of value rented water rights are receiving. And the response that they provided is that the EID will rent water rights that they have available, and what they have been receiving is $75 an acre per year. But they qualified it that as far as they were aware, that was the lowest amount, and that transactions between other independent parties are suggesting that the rates that can be received are actually higher than that. How we would confirm that, good question. I think we would reach out to some others to find out if they're willing to disclose that information as to how much they are receiving or paying for rented water rights, but as a base, the EID has indicated $75 an acre.
For me, when I read Mr. Defoe's letter of interest, he's not interested in paying. He says use. So I question his ability or willingness to pay, and do we need to get clarity on that before we have further discussion? Because I'm leaning towards open market. I think that's what sets our rates in other areas. And if we were going to go forward, I would like to see this advertised. That's where I'm leaning.
Okay. I've had 2 conversations with him, one in person when he came into the office, and we sat down and had a discussion about what his initial interest was. I've had a follow-up conversation with him after I had spoken with the Eastern Irrigation District. I indicated now what we're hearing is this is the amount that would be considered a minimum. So he knows that there is compensation that we would be expecting, and he knows how much the Eastern Irrigation District charges as a base. How much more above and beyond that he might be prepared to pay, we won't know until we have that discussion, if council approves it.
Lane, I'm just curious, does he have pivots up now?
He has pivots on some of his land. He's wanting to add some additional pivot capacity, and he has had discussions with the Eastern Irrigation District about doing that. They've told him it looks good. You need to get your water rights in place.
Thank you. All right. Anne-Marie.
It's not a lot of acres, like 39, but I'm leaning towards what Kelly is saying too. This man came forward because he heard about it somehow, but are there other people around in that area that just don't even know that the 39 acres are available, and should we let them know?
We can certainly fall back on that position and go through an advertising process that the county has these water rights that are available for rent, and if individuals are interested, just like we did with the Patricia lot, go through a tender process. That wouldn't be completely out of line, if that's what your preference is.
I think it's the safer alternative. And it seems as though these rights are becoming pretty pricey and scarce, so it might prevent something in the future that comes back to haunt us. So, Lane, direction enough for a motion?
We'll proceed with advertising.
Anybody else have anything to say or different feelings? No. All right. Lane can take that as direction then. Okay. And we always need a little bit of humor before heavy-duty delegations with men in black. I was happy to see somebody in purple. So we're going to do the outcome of the urban chicken pilot project before we move on.
Okay, just to refresh everyone's memory, council saw fit to implement a pilot project that would provide for keeping chickens in urban areas. It was restricted to the hamlet of Tilly for an 18-month period that came to a close the end of January. We only had 2 applications that were actually received to keep chickens in Tilly during that period, but that's 2 licenses that were issued. We reached out and, well, we had no concerns brought to our attention during the pilot period, that 18-month window of time. I did reach out and connect with the neighbors of one of the 2 applications and talk to them about their experience living next door to a yard that has chickens in it and had absolutely no concerns whatsoever. She said, I knew that they were there. Occasionally the chickens would jump up on the fence and look into my yard and then would jump back down. And she said it wasn't a problem at all. So the recommendation is, if council's prepared to consider it, is that we would put in place provisions that would allow for keeping chickens in other urban areas throughout the county, with one exception, and that being Lake Newell Resort. Now, the reason for Lake Newell Resort, smaller lots. From what I understand, there's restrictions on the type of fences that are used. They like to have chain link fences as opposed to impermeable fences. So whatever's going on in your backyard is visible for everybody else down the block. So, and that was the one hamlet that was really quite vocally opposed to it when we went through the survey in advance of the pilot project being launched in the first place. So if council's okay with that, what we would do is come back with the bylaw that is required to provide for keeping chickens in other urban areas within the county.
Oh, Hubie, I'm curious, how many, we had 2 applications. How many houses do you suppose have chickens in Tilly? That's a very wise answer.
And one had a rooster too.
Uh-oh. All right, are we going to Clarence?
Maybe it's a personal thing, but
You don't want them in Rolling
no,
Hills?
I don't want them in Rolling Hills. And you know, I get very few complaints, but this one, some of those 16 that said no were pretty adamant they don't want chickens. So I'm gonna, until we get requests from Rolling Hills that they want them, I would like to add our little hamlet, which is not quite as luxurious as Lake Newell Resort, but would like to add Rolling Hills' name to it, to an exception. And we'll let chicken ranches stay in Tilly.
So is that fair enough, Council, if your area feels strongly about it? Clarence obviously knows his constituents did give feedback that we can opt out for our area until somebody comes in and demands that they want to do it. Fair enough? I don't like chickens either, but if they come to Jem, I'll take them.
We've had complaints about manure, we've had complaints about flies, and I think
Oh, yes.
it does attract them, and so I just think unless there's a demand for it in Rolling Hills, I'm quite prepared to not have any chickens there. Yeah, it is.
All right, so recommended action, which again, direction then, Lane, you will come back to us with the bylaw that authorizes the residents in areas except for Rolling Hills and Lake Newell Resort. Thank you. Anything else on that? No? All right. We'll get serious now and invite the CNRL gentlemen to, you can bring in more chairs so that you can all be able to speak if need be. And I believe we need a motion to move in camera. Ellen moves to in camera. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
So yes, it has been before council a few times in the past, and I guess we're just wanting to know, and in fact it came up earlier today. I think there needs to be some more discussion within council as to what direction you're wanting to take with regards to the funds that are being collected and retained in the reserve account right now. And I think that there's a discussion needs to take place with regards to the way recreation services are provided and funded at large throughout the entire county in partnership with your urban communities as well. I don't think it's something that you're going to be able to take and resolve in 10-minute discussion here today, but there was a request that we bring this back so that you as a council can figure out how you want to try and move forward with this particular item that has been dealt with before.
So from perspective around the table, should we set some specified time to have a discussion on this, like a separate meeting? We have done that in the past, I believe, with recreation. Wayne?
We actually set this up to to do regional. Should we invite people from the other municipalities to be part of this discussion? Where I'm saying is, maybe we should have a discussion how we want to spend it, and then do we invite them in to see where that they would like to see some of this funding? Or are we just going to have a discussion on how are we going to do a 50-50 deal or whatever? What is this meeting, if we have one, what are we going to discuss?
Well, I think it would be great to assume that we could have a regional discussion, but well, it's a big topic, and I think perhaps we need to get our thoughts gathered, and I don't know if we've done that totally. Kevin?
Yeah, I'll just caution everybody to not get too excited about moving on that reserve account. One of the asks and one of the ICFs is more than we transfer every year right now, so that's just one ask. And that's operating, not capital. So if we're gonna commit to how we're gonna spend this, we may be spending something that might not be there. So I think the important thing to do is to get a political group together to get the discussion happening, because it's not happening at the admin level. They're all over the map with regards to it. We're working closely with the town of Bassano right now to bring something back. That'll be the first one that you get to look at under the parameters that you've suggested. But other than that, I would be very careful in terms of what you commit from that money.
Kelly? Clarence?
Would it make sense to have, in our group, have a group discussion around what we see as an inside recreation facility and get some labels put on these facilities? Because right now they're just recreation facilities. But why not identify them as regional or internal or other, or I don't know, maybe there's only two categories. But it'd be nice to start the conversation there, and then we know as a county how many facilities we're actually
talking
and targeting in the conversation. To me, that's a starting place. Next steps, I guess, would be prioritizing those for replacement. I don't know. Kevin, I'm looking to you for direction. But
Some of that's been done sort of too, hasn't it? And with the document that we got. Clarence, Brian?
Well, we've done the study on the capital assets, but we've not done a study on how each community spends their money or how it's done, because I think everybody does it different. And I think we have to get a handle on operating as well as the capital aspects of it. And how we see, it's something that's been very localized, run locally, volunteered locally. We have different ways of doing it in just about every single community. And I certainly don't have a handle on it all, how it all operates. And to get into a discussion, I think we need to have that knowledge.
Brian?
So because it was on the agenda, I've been obviously seeing the minutes, and one of the people that have been bringing it up more than often than not. And I'm not sure why we can't have the discussion here, and if we don't, that's fine too. But
here
I look,
today, you mean?
Yeah, and that's okay if we don't. I mean, that's if people have to get their thoughts around it. I'm totally on board with having a separate situation meeting. But I guess I look at today with the bombers coming in, and I sort of lump it into the same situation that I've been dealing with in Dutchess. We have a group here, basically a volunteer group that wants to see improvements on their facility, or that facility. It's not their facility, but a facility that's within the city. And they're willing to put some energy and probably some money into getting that done. And I think it's incumbent upon us to use this reserve in some capacity to help that program go forward. But to me, it's contingent, first of all, if that facility is within a municipality, another municipality, that that we have to take in respect the population of that area around it. So just for an example, I mean, the city of Brooks is 14,500, 15,000 people. The Div 5 and 10, correct me if I'm wrong, is 33,000, 3,500 people. So roughly a third, you know, we should be contributing a third of that cost. And, you know, that the city's contributing. So if the need is 50,000 that they expressed today, you know, maybe they raise 10. The balance should be 1/3 city or 1/3 county and 2/3. And that's just, you know, at the top of my head. You know, I look at what I talked about at our last meeting within the village of Duchesses, or the Ag Societies stuff. They had a fundraiser. I don't know what the totals are yet, but there's another case where, you know, the population between my community, my Div 8, and then Dutchess it's not similar, but it's close. And if you look at that and you said, well, if they want to put some reserves aside and they raise 30,000 on a fundraiser, you know, they've put a lot of effort and time into that, and I think that needs to be respected and appreciated. I'd like to see that as a partner with the Village of Dutchess, whatever we contribute, they would have to match. And this goes above and beyond operating money. This is just for capital. We would retain it in our own bank account till it's needed. It doesn't flow until it's needed. Now that's sort of a real, I mean, there's other scenarios, and that's why I think having the discussion at a different time is productive, because you guys all bring different scenarios to the table, and I don't understand all of that, but I think using the population component is key. And if you have a municipality that is functioning as part of these, as benefiting or functioning as part of these facilities, they need to be, their population needs to be recognized, and it has to be part of that equation.
And I think that's fair, and I think most of us agree with that. I have a little bit of trouble when we get to the more regional things, because I think we do have some facilities within our region that are not just the local rural users, it's all of us, you know, and I think we do have some of those facilities that maybe need to be designated somehow too. So, Kevin?
Yeah, so if that's the parameter that council likes, so Division 5 and 10 is roughly around 2,300 people. Close to 2,400. So out of 14.5, 16.8, that's 13.6%. So if we did it on population, we'd be rounded up to 14, or how much do we boost that to make it work? And if we decide to do by population and surrounding division, then we can make that offer and say, we will provide your funding based on that formula on the interim without an ICF. And once the ICF's done, then you can rework that number, or increase the charge on the mill rate, or whatever you want to do, if that's what you'd like to do. Because that's simple, and it can be population-based. It's just about how much plus or minus can we do.
So you're talking operational now, Kevin?
Well, I think Brian was talking capital.
Yeah.
But I mean, your point, Molly, is very well taken, in that there is certain facilities, and maybe this ballpark falls into one of them. You know, it's not a typical ballpark that exists in a lot of hamlets and villages. Right. So, and the swimming pool is the other one. I mean, that's a facility that, you know, they're unique to a certain area, and they need to be treated somewhat differently. You know, and that's why I haven't contemplated some of these things, but they're valuable in order to do that. And you know, whether that comes up with a different formula, but I think when we're looking at the bulk of this funding, or this reserve, how are we going to treat it? And I can see treating it two different things for different type facilities, but by and large, we got to get our head wrapped around this population thing for my purposes anyways, because I think it's the only way to do it equitable when you're looking at different communities.
And yeah, it's, when you think about it, so usually the host community, like, they're putting other things in, right? Not maybe just, I don't know. It's this different, when you host something, I don't know if it's as black and white as you know, you say, for example, Duchess should have to put in the same amount because they're not putting any operating expenses in, or you're just talking capital. So capital is a little bit easier in a way, maybe. Right?
So in your, you make a great point, and that has been brought up. So it's an in-kind amount is what I call it. Cleaning the parking lot when there's snow.
Right,
I know in the village's case, they pay for garbage pickup and they pay for water for those facilities.
And so that's the sort of information that would be different from each community.
Yeah,
and what
but to me, that lumps in with operating. You know, it's not capital. This reserve is a capital reserve. That's what it was created for, and that's two different. It's two different.
Right.
Two different things.
Clarence.
The reserve is created for that, but our mill rate is being used for operating.
Right now, yeah.
In large part. It's a total picture. You can't get away with it. You got to handle both.
I think we need to have a separate meeting because I need to think more about this too, even though we've talked about it forever. It's a big thought. It's hard to put all the pieces together. You know, I look at a little community like Gem, and, you know, it's just Gem, it's nobody else. And then there's our other municipalities that are different because they're contributing, and, you know, we got Rolling Hills, it's going to be different from Gem, even so, and Patricia, I mean, yeah, so I think, I don't know. I don't think we're going to come to big conclusions in a short time after all those comments that we've had over the years. So should we set a time that we meet specifically? Yes, people look like they want to do that. So let's get a date. It'll work, and then I guess we need to let staff know what it is we want to know, or find out from your own communities too what's going on. How's the last week in March?
Not good for me.
People are saying not good. Okay, we're into April then, aren't we? Because of convention and, yeah. I don't know why I forgot about February. Sorry. We're in February. Last week in February is no good. Is that what people are saying? How about the we're skipping March altogether? How about March 4th? Is that any good? Monday, March 4th? Good for anybody? Oh, no, Kevin has to be here. Sorry. Oh, yeah, you're going to be away. No, I think we need Kevin, too. Kevin and Lane were both good there. 6 is no good. We could have one, do you think we could do it in the afternoon? How about we do it the afternoon of Wednesday, the 6th? Clarence and I are already in town for regionalization. Like, we might go over, that's the one I chair, isn't it? Because it won't go over time. So we could start at 1:30? 1:30, Clarence? 1:30 on the 6th? Ash Wednesday for all of you churchgoers. 1:30 p.m. 1:30 p.m. rec meeting. Here. All right, perfect. Sort of come with a concept of what your own communities are about, and we'll see if we can move this forward, at least for ourselves. Spring convention, I couldn't believe it when I saw that on the program. I thought, that can't be. It just was November. So we need to let Ariana know if we're not going. ASAP. There are 2 education program courses. That I guess would come under function of council. What else, Ariana, do you need to know?
I guess if you want to try and meet with any ministers this time.
I bet, yeah, the throne speech is that Monday, so who knows, there might have been an election called. And even if there hasn't been, I don't see any purpose meeting with anybody who's, I think there's going to be an election called. We'll let you know, Ariane, if there's anything comes along. Brian.
And I'm apologizing in case it's out there, but is there an agenda that's been published yet as far as number of resolutions and speakers and stuff? Because I'm starting to question whether I'm even going to go.
There's a draft program with a lot of blanks on it. There's a lot of like plenary address with no names attached. In fact, most of Tuesday is, the morning is all we don't know, and then there's the resolutions, but we don't have the resolutions yet, right?
Well, we don't usually get the resolutions till like the first week or first meeting in March.
So the agenda is not fleshed out at all, Brian, you're right.
Well, and I guess with that, how late is the latest we can cancel our rooms in case, without a penalty, Ariana? Because
good question.
I just, yeah, no ministers, you know, not knowing the resolutions, don't know even speakers and stuff. It's almost like, maybe that's where we should have our rec meeting, guys.
What are the deadlines for the hotel, Ariana?
I would have to check on that because I booked them a year in advance, and there's an agreement with that attrition clause that's nasty.
If we don't fill so many of them, how many? 7, 8, 10?
I'm getting the feeling might be a little bit of a boycott around the room on this meeting, so we better find out what our obligations are, and then we'll decide.
Yeah. Cabs up the politicians around, it's different. Lionel.
I had not planned on attending.
Not. Well, Ariana, can you let us know what the deal is? And we will, You look like you have an answer.
It's long.
Okay. You can let us know.
All right, so we're, how many days are we? 31 days to 89 days prior. I don't understand this.
Well, we don't need to, you don't need to.
I'll get back to you.
Yes. Just as soon as you can figure anything out, just let us know what are, if there are any chances of canceling or getting out of it, or if there's deadlines. Okay? Just whenever. Soon as you can do that, like this week or next week. Early bird, is there early bird?
Early bird ends next week.
Oh.
Find my RFD.
So we pretty much need to know early bird registration is available until February 15th.
Yeah, so next Thursday?
Oh boy.
Friday. I think the hotel, I think we're hooped. If county's actual usage is less than 80% of the room night commitment, we have to pay the difference between 80% of the room night commitment and actual usage multiplied. Yeah, I think we have to 80%.
So we might lose some money on the rooms, but we save lots of money for us not going and drinking for 3 days, getting paid for it, really. If there's nothing going on, no ministers, no resolutions.
Well, is this the first time this has ever come up? That it's been such a vague program, and it must be because of the election. By next Friday. So if we don't do 80%, like if we only did 50%, we have to top up the 30? Is that what that sounds like? Okay. Gosh. Yes. Do you know what the registration is, Ariane?
Yeah, early bird is $635 per person. Like $3,000, $5,000. It's up there. You might take the hit on the hotel room, but you're still not paying the full amount.
Maybe we can approach different counties that are further away, because these hotels rooms are pretty good. They're right next door.
So are we saying none of us are going to go then, and we're going to check out all these possibilities? That's sort of wild. Well, I didn't go last year because I was supposed to go to Australia. I better go to Edmonton this year, so I go somewhere. Everybody to let Ariana know then by next Friday.
Yeah, I'll email my hotel group bookings guy and get clarification on that, see how many we can actually cancel.
Okay.
Maybe he'll cut us a break.
Okay. All right. All right. Thanks, Ariana, for putting up with us. The Global Village letter of support. I think there's some information attached. Actually, this is a grant that the government asked Ahmed to put in an application for because of the uniqueness of our community and their knowledge of Ahmed. So the grant's was submitted some time ago, and I think is the information, now I've lost my stuff, is the information in there that from FCSS? Anyhow, we need a motion, so I quit mumbling. Brian. It's a motion to support Global Village's anti-racism community grant. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks. And the ACP is for the regionalization work that we're doing. So we need a motion for that. Clarence will move. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. No.
We got money, but under a different stream.
And the city of Brooks is handling this, and Alan thought it would be about 190,000, 97, something like that. Okay, invitation to attend and vote at AGM. Well, it looks like the boss is going to Edmonton, because isn't that your job, Kevin, always?
Part of his job description.
So we need a motion for that. Kelly, you'll move. All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Checks for payment. Payment register. Questions, anything? Otherwise, motion to accept the payment register? Is that what you're doing?
Yep,
Therese?
motion to accept.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Request for functions of council. This is one that I said I could go to on our behalf. Alberta Health Services. Community conversation. Yeah. No, it's February 25th. Emery. No, that's CARES. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And the CARES is different, and Brian.
Well, and I apologize, Clarence, but I was going to approach you ahead of time. There's a land use planning workshop that's put on by the Bow River Basin Council, and I'm going to be gone on February 22nd, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in attending. It's at the Cochrane's Ranch House, so close to your Canmore digs, and no, anyways, I don't know, it's always a good
22nd.
February 22nd.
After council. Is that a PEP meeting that day? Oh, is it in Brooks?
Okay. Anyways, if I'd make a motion that you attend as a function of council, if you're available. Usually is.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And the Alberta Care Spring Seminar, that would be Lionel. Anne-Marie moves that as function of council. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I think that's all of them. Municipal Services Business. Mark isn't around right now. was he planning to come in, or do we just want to look at his report? Okay. Everybody got the minutes from our intermunicipal meeting? Put December 18th, 2019 on your calendar. So we have Mark's report, and I think that's it, isn't it, until in camera? And we'll do that in camera too. Not sure why.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, update, exciting things. There's been very little to no snow. So operators have really been, truck drivers keeping up with stockpile program and stuff. The extreme cold weather, we attempt to not do a whole lot because we usually end up with a lot of breakdowns, and then that puts staff out in the field trying to fix things where it's inconvenienced. So that's, this weather that we've got currently is actually slowing progress. Grader operators, same thing, they haven't been doing a whole lot. Even tree cuttings kind of on a standstill. People out in the cold, you spend more time trying to get warm sitting in a vehicle than you actually do with progress out there. So things that have been allowed to be done is responding to 4 winter weather events throughout the period of December and stuff, and some in January here. Maintenance operators continue operating with the operations foreman on various assignments, so trying to keep up with some of the vegetation management. We are moving into nesting season with some of the braver migratory birds and some of those that stay around. So nesting birds such as owls, horned owls, actually nest as early as the beginning of February, so we do have to do our wildlife and environmental duties in that kind of work and watch for nests and take caution and avoid where necessary. Seasonal positions, advertisements have been out, and thankfully we didn't have to advertise this year, just agricultural services, because we got confirmed that all of our seasonals from last year are returning, so that's great for us. That's the first that I recall in the department, so we won't have any retraining of staff per se, or training new staff and getting them used to what we do and how we do it. So that should be a good efficiency to have this spring. Terry has been working on the snow storage site applications for Alberta Environment. So our hamlets, we currently windrow snow up, load it up, haul it out, put it in one spot. We've investigated that, and I've asked him to pursue these snow storage sites approvals through Environment. So he's working on that matter, which if we move where we store the snow every year, we don't need approvals, but if we put it in the same spot every year, they want to have an approval. They're looking for contaminants and stuff on those sites. Thankfully in our hamlets, we don't spread salt on our roads, so it's just 5/8 inch chip, but you got to remember some people have antifreeze leaks or oil leaks or gas leaks and stuff. Those are all contaminants, and those are the things that they want to monitor and manage in their approvals of where things get stored. So additionally, with that salt management plan, currently we don't consume enough salt on our roads and stuff in the typical season. Generally 350 tons of salt. Federal reporting requirement is 500 tons of salt. As we put more pavement out there, we gradually increase and creep up to that 500. So I'd like to have something in place now that when we have to start reporting, we have a full-blown salt management plan in place, and it's easy to work with. So work with some of those things where we're finding some time to deal with some of this stuff. Engineering, water, wastewater, registrations and percent active locations receiving water, really nothing's changed. One new activation. So we got 403 inactive locations at this time. Manager of Engineering and Operations Foreman attended a hydrovac waste session in Medicine Hat. Apparently legislation has been in place since 2010. They've actually been doing enforcement on where hydrovac waste is disposed of in central and northern Alberta. They haven't done a whole lot in southern Alberta yet, but they are aware that there are only a certain number of facilities approved to receive hydrovac waste in southern Alberta, and they're going to be taking a stance on that and seeing what's going on. And to date, there's one company provincial-wide that has been fined up to $600,000 for improper disposal of hydrovac waste. So we will be working on how we tend to this matter within our own operations. We hydrovac holes for signposts and things because it's the most safe way of excavating for operators with underground buried facilities and stuff. We hydrovac pipelines and everything like that for our road shoulder pull program, anything that we do with our culvert program. Hydrovacing is the way that most everybody does business these days. And it's not the responsibility of the company performing the hydrovacing for you. It's actually you that have hired them to do the hydrovacing work. So we're working on that stuff, and everybody's in the same vote, from City of Brooks, Town of Bazzano. All of us in the region are in that position. We had a meeting with Ray Juska, manager of our NRSWMA, to find out what he knows about it. The Drumheller landfill facility is a certified facility to receive hydrovac waste, as are places such as Tervita, and used to be CCS, but Tervita also owns that one now too. So we're trying to figure out what we can do ourselves and how we can do it at a cost-effective manner and still meet legislative requirements. What else we got? Bridge file, Highway 876 bridge file work. That work is pretty well done. So now we're just going to be waiting for the grading work with the realignment of the road, with the rises and falls in the road, to get working on that, which will take all season, and of course paving and grading taking place, or base work taking place in 2020. So what else we got? Municipal enforcement, keeping up with partner expectations with patrols and whatnot. 14 tickets issued with 17 warnings over the past period, resulting from 12 investigations. Since cannabis was legalized, the department has on 3 occasions now encountered motorists in possession of cannabis. And unfortunately for those motorists, officers had to enforce laws applicable to the unlawful transportation of cannabis, meaning that it was within reach of the driver and or the occupants of the vehicle. So the rules of the road and the laws surrounding this are no different than alcohol. It cannot be within reach of any occupant within the vehicle. It's either got to be in the back of the box of the truck, or in the trunk of the car, or some other inaccessible place. And so that has had to be dealt with on our part since legalization. So I thought I would bring that forward because I'm sure that there needs to be some more education around that component for persons in possession of such goods and services provided, that it's unlawful to be within reach of the driver and or passengers, and definitely unlawful to be under the influence. So what else? Continuing with records management and making sure things are getting into Laserfiche, continuing with process and procedure documentation. 2019 budgeted items, tenders are being prepared and advertised as fast as we can get them out there. Items for disposal are also being rounded up and being sent to local auctions and stuff for whenever those can be disposed at key times in the year when we know people are going to be out in attendance, not when it's minus 30 anyway. Customer service requests or complaints tended to in a very good manner. I did a review of that for the past couple months, and it seems like we have very few outstanding. Some of them are things that we have to carry forward into our seasonal plans in the summer and stuff for construction and whatnot, but next to minimal stuff in there. And field staff are actually taking the Incident Command System 101 training, which if there's ever any kind of emergency event or something that they need to respond to, such as fire or whatever, they will have the basic knowledge of how the fire chief and fire chiefs in the region will be working with things. And if we get to a larger scale incident, then they will also have that understanding of how that works and how the chain of command works and how things get called upon and whatnot. So otherwise, I did get some statistics on the permit activity for the month of January, highlighting that December and the 2018 period ended with 3,366 permits, so we were just down 1% from the year previous. And the month of January here, we have 340 permits taken out. So we're right around that 2017 period for January with the number of permits taken out. And to date, we have 3 oil field companies and 28 trucking companies that have road use agreements in place for the 2019 period. So those are the ones that we'll see come through on a regular basis. January, we had the highest amount of permits taken out was 78 permits for service rigs in our area, or 22.9% of the total. The second highest was actually 33 mud tanks got moved in the region for 9.7% of the total. And I guess in comparison, the statistic that we really want to know about is that there were 8 rig moves in the region. So there is some activity, and some not too far from Dutchess that I see there's a couple things going on, and there's a couple more out in the Castles area and stuff. So some activity, but that's about it. Pretty slow month based on things, and I was in and out of the office for various reasons throughout January as well. So any questions?
Clarence.
So how is the stuff from hydrovacs used? Where they put it now? And I guess, is there a difference between public and private property? If you dig a hole, you can't just throw it back in when you're done?
Well, some of the legislation and stuff that we're trying to sift through and work out is they say that anything that creates a slurry, so once you've mixed soils with water, you have a slurry. You need to separate the liquids from the soils, which means you need some way of drying or letting the moisture run off into a separate storage area. The liquid can be treated at sewage lagoons or treatment facilities like Tervita, and the soils, once they're clean, if it came out of a hole over here, that soil can actually go back in the same hole, but it can't go anywhere else other than to the landfill.
It's amazing they let you put it back in the hole.
Well, and it's supposed to be kept on site adjacent. Well, we're not going to hydrovac a hole for a signpost, leave it there for 30 days to put it back in the hole, because it's probably not going to be there.
Of course you do that.
It's got a lot of people kind of on the edge of the seats as to how you deal with this. Even just cleaning out the sumps in the shop and stuff, we had to clean out the wash bay. You can have grease, you can have oils, you can have other things. We have oil separators and things in there, but we still have the solids from the sump in there, just like a car wash, right? And basically those things right now, since we don't have any approved facilities through environment in our region, need to go to Tervita.
And that costs money?
About $1,700 worth.
Every time you clean it out?
Well, that last bill was $1,700.
And how many months or weeks or days?
Depends on how much it snows and how dirty the plow trucks get.
Yeah.
So it's concerning that it's going to have pretty big impact on costs, and I'd like to know what we can look at potentially on a regional basis. Not saying that a hydrovac truck going from the town of Bazzano to the landfill is the most convenient thing either, or for us going from Rolling Hills to such a place, but what can we do that's going to make sense within our region and do it right?
Yeah, fill some golf rolls.
A high-tech shovel.
Blast it.
Yeah, well, anything that's 6 inches or deeper for underground disturbance, you have to do your one calls and all that sort of stuff, and then it's basically hand digging. So a power auger generally is not safe for digging. Like, you know, we used to do that with our signposts all the time. You get your clearance on the locate and just auger your hole and shake the dirt beside the hole, flop the post in the ground and throw the dirt back in the hole and tamp it down with your shovel end, and you were done, right? Hydrovacing is absolutely the safest because you can't cut anything or put anybody at risk with an underground power line that wasn't marked or anything like that, and it seems like they've got something going on with that that's not quite right in my books.
Technology to locate stuff that you can do by X-ray or something of that nature, is there anything like that?
I'm not going to say by X-ray or anything. You have ground penetrating radar, obviously. Anybody locating facilities, they generally have wires that they connect to and they can locate, and they say that they're going to be within this meter underneath of that line. We do it with all of our water lines as well. We got 1,200 and some kilometers in there now with the rural water line, right, that we locate. I think what's going to come about in the future is a lot of people using, you've heard of the Google glasses and the HoloLens and things like that, virtual reality, augmented virtual reality. You'll have things with an X, Y, and Z coordinate to place it globally on the earth and be able to slide those glasses on and see those facilities underground and work around them. But yeah, some things get missed. I remember when I worked at the city of Brooks, there was a buried power line about like that, and it got located once, and we found the line 3 more times installing within about 30 meters of that first location. So that one would have fried a hole on site. It would have melted her to the ground. It's only as good as the records have recorded, right? And things are getting better every day, but we'll get into this one and we'll figure out what can happen. And I know that the city was attending that session as well. Volker Stebbins staff were attending that session as well because they use hydrovacs a lot too. This isn't a county annual thing. It's a provincial wide. It's everybody that does any kind of excavating or locating is going to be in the same situation. So
We might have to convert back to the old drill lip posts by auger, because you don't introduce a slurry because there's no water that goes in there. So we're back to 40 years ago.
Signs will all fall over because nobody's going to dig a hole that deep. All right, any other questions for Mark? Lyle?
I'm not sure if that works either, Kevin. We had a bunch of boring done recently, not hydrovac bored, and they wouldn't put the material back in the hole. Took to landfill.
yeah. And I think some of the things that we need to understand is what is the impact of the landfill? Because now you're hauling soils to the landfill that you try to keep it for solid waste, household waste, and other construction waste and stuff going there, right? Now you're going to haul a bunch of soil. The big thing is that you got to classify the soil and whether it had contaminants on it. Does that include if we hydro-excavated a signpost next to where we put calcium chloride on the road? Did somebody spill a bunch of fertilizer in their agricultural operation going down the road? Because that would be contaminated because now it's got fertilizer in it. Was it liquid or was it pellet or what was it? What are the residuals? Well, we don't have records of where every little oil spill or somebody lost an oil pan or filter, or we don't have all of that. We can't confirm that stuff, right? So that's the challenging part in all of it. But hopefully somebody can make some good common sense out of it and not drive costs beyond.
All right, no more questions for Mark? We need a motion to accept the reports, municipal reports today. Anne Marie, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And I think we've talked about the rest of the agenda, and so we need a motion to move in camera again. Hubie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.